they'll be all right. All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Outlander Book Club. Today you have me and Amber hanging out with you. Yay. Wow. We do have 10 people watching. Hi, friends. We're so excited to have you. Let us know if you can hear both of us. Part of the reason we were late, we were having a little bit of technical difficulties. So, Amber, say hi.
Hi, can you hear me, guys? Because I was having issues.
Yeah. And I can hear her fine, but I know that I have to talk into my computer. I learned that. So that's why I'm leaning over weird because I wear my headphones to block out my air conditioner. But when I did a live chat with Megan last month, she could only hear me if I was talking into my computer. So I'll be leaning over to make sure because it's weird. Apparently there should be a speaker on my headphones because I use them for calls. But with my computer, I have to talk to my computer. So, yay, friends. Hi. Hey, Susan. Thanks for hanging out with us. Hi, Amanda. Hello. Hi, Jenn. Welcome. Lisa. Hey, girl. So excited to have you. Thank you, Ruth.
Yay. Thank you.
Okay. We are good. Christina. Hi, friends. Hello. Well, we'll give people a couple minutes to get here. Let's talk about what are you reading, Amber? And in 3 minutes, we'll get started with the book chat. Give people a couple minutes.
I got the arc for Gianna Darling's next thing in the MC. It was kind of delayed because she got COVID and sick and stuff. So you completely understand. I think it said it was a novella, but when I got the arc, it was a little over 300. I'm like, I don't think that's a novella, but we'll see if it's actually that. You know, sometimes the arc is says it's longer than the actual book ends up being. But so I just started that today. Huh?
It looked pretty big in the picture that she showed.
Yeah.
So she might have meant it to be a novella, and it was longer.
Yeah.
So,
but she got more into it, maybe.
Yeah. Which is totally fine. Yeah, well, you're lucky. I didn't end up getting approved, and it ended up being okay because one author moved their book up, one person moves them late, and
a couple of my arcs that got delayed for another month or something. So I'm like, oh, I kind of want to. I think I'm going to remove them from my actual TBR I post to add more stuff on there, but I don't know. Lots of stuff is getting delayed and moved around. So
yeah. Well, it's nice because I actually have time because I always have my wish TBR, and the past couple months I haven't really been able to read any of the books on that because it's just been nuts. And August is going to be nuts too because there's a few books, like you said, that have been pushed back to there.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's fine though. It's fine. It's going to be exciting with some of them, but yeah, I started our Patreon book. So I started Two Wrongs by Kimberly Camarillo. Yeah, so it's a husband's dad. They're not even exes when the book starts.
I think that's one that I actually recommended because it was I couldn't think of any other ones that you read. So that was the only one that I knew that you haven't read yet. So I think I listened to that on audiobook.
But then you recommended Chasing Wild. You should have recommended that one for this one.
I know. I don't think I read it yet till when you posted that one because I definitely would have because I recommended it again for the forced proximity. So
yeah. I mean, I'm definitely gonna read it because I have it, so I'll definitely read it. I think Solange ended up sending it to me right after you'd been talking about it. Solange sent it to me. Oh, I didn't realize this was the ex-boyfriend's dad. So here we go.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I'm reading that, and then the book I started from my wish TBRs. I started Ensnared by Rebecca Quinn. So that's the reverse harem apocalyptic one, which I forgot it was apocalyptic or end of the world book. Because I don't know, the front of it gives very paranormal is what the front gives. But it's because it's a snake and an apple, and her name is Eden, so that's right. But so it makes sense once I've started it. But for some reason I thought it was a paranormal reverse harem, and so I was like, okay, another one of these. But it's one of my 12 Rex from 12 friends, and It's one too that people really wanted me to do the audiobook because it's a full cast duet narration.
Oh,
So like
cool.
6 people, but it also had Joe Arden in it, and so
Oh, yeah.
that got all like people got all like crazy about it. Which I mean, I haven't listened to a Joe Arden book since all that went down either, because I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't support people who are douchebags like that. Whether it was illegal or not doesn't mean it's not a shitty,
Yeah.
gross thing to do. And I'm one of those people that I don't like that. But anyway, the point being, the book, very good so far because I love sex deals. Like I love sex. That's literally what this one is it's like she gets protection if she'll basically be their like lady all the
Oh,
time.
okay.
But there will be an couple, I guess. Like it will happen. So I was also like, okay. But also
Is it
again,
a standalone or like a series for
no,
it?
it's a trilogy, which
Oh,
makes
okay.
sense because there's five. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's five of them, and it's a trilogy. And the last one comes out in like 2 weeks, so it won't be too long if I like them. The first
Yeah.
two are out, and there's one more. But it's a good setup. I like that type of scenario. It felt very Claire Kent for there to be like a
Yeah.
sex deal, like we'll protect
I might
you
have
if
to note that
you.
down because I got to be reading these white shoes soon. So I'm like trying to
I
find some more
know,
white
I
shoes.
know,
So I'm like,
I
oh, I
know.
need more.
Well, and I figured out because if I save one of them, I could read it in September for points too
Hmm.
if I read it. But anywho,
Yeah.
all right. Well, we have a few people watching, everybody. Um, oh, asking for trouble is coming. Yes, yes. I mean, at least it didn't get delayed like caution's delayed
Yeah.
for sure. I think it's because she already had these ones written, Ruth. So we're like good. Like during her year off, she wrote a lot of these already.
Yeah.
It was only delayed because she was sick. But I know what you mean, Ruth. I was a little like, oh my gosh, it's getting pushed back. But
I know when I kept getting emails from Valentine PR,
yeah.
it was like, okay, well, we don't
Mhm.
have the arc yet, and I'm like, I hope people aren't being rude because, how
Yeah.
people, they get crazy. Like, it's
Yeah.
like, she's sick, just give her the time. And it's not like they're
I
rushing
know.
us to get the reviews done, it's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah. And yeah, that was because when she came back, she said she wrote 3 books. Well, she would like during the year she was gone, she wrote 3 books. So,
yeah.
they're at least there and everything. But okay. Anywho, let's go ahead and get started with this one because yeah, I didn't put questions in the Discord group this time. I know not all of you use it anyway. I just kind of left the discussion open for each part so people could chat if they wanted to. I'll be honest, it's been a lot for me lately, and I was like, I don't want to come up with questions right now. We'll talk about them at the live chat. But I appreciate those of you who did pop in there and leave comments. I really like that. But yeah, so this was your first time reading this one, right? Because you'd read all the
Yeah.
other ones
So,
before.
yeah. I had a really good time with it. I mean, I listened to it on audiobook, like while I was like going through my ebook and everything. And I really enjoyed it. I just love, I actually really appreciated seeing like reading about Roger, and them from like instead of seeing them on the show because they kind of like don't have the chemistry I want or like the
Yeah,
stuff in the show. So I felt it a lot more like their romance in this. So I really enjoyed it and I love being like in America, like a totally different setting and everything. So I had a great time. I ended up loving it.
yeah, yeah. I of course, at least I didn't wait till the very last minute this time, guys. I finished my reread of it. And I was breaking it up. I was going to read like 2 parts a day. There's 12 parts, so I was going to read it in like 6 days. But then on Thursday, I just sat down and I was like, didn't stop. So I read over half of it on Thursday alone, and that was great.
Yeah.
So yeah, for me, this has always been either my favorite or my second favorite in all the times I've read it, and that was the same this time. I feel like this one also is right before things start to get really complicated. I don't mean to, like there are a
Yeah.
lot of overlapping timelines and crazier things that happen later on. And so this one, there's really still just those like 4 POVs that we get. We get Claire, Jamie, Roger, and Bree as POVs. And so it's still pretty easy to know what's going on and when and everything. Although there was a few like you follow Brianna, and then you go back in time to find out how Roger got there, and we'll get to all of those. But
Yeah.
I always love rereading Drums of Autumn. It's, I think, my most read one after the first book, because there are times where I've picked up and just read this one because it has
Hmm.
some of my favorite stuff. I mean, one more comment before I'll look at what other people are saying too is that this is the one for me where, like, Jamie's always my book husband. He always, always, always is. He's the number one. But in this one, he reminds me so much of like my dad, and I also love him that way. Like, I love the parts of him that remind me of my dad, as well as the romance hero parts of him too. And this is the book where I start to feel like Brie the most, and that is true. Like, if we talk about any comparisons to the show, like something the show
Hmm.
did real dirty was Brianna for me. And in this book, I just feel like we get so much more of a complex picture of who she is
Yeah.
that just can't be conveyed through little clips on the show.
Yeah.
So let's see what everyone's saying here. So hard to answer the questions without talking about how it relates to Lallybroch. I know, Jen, it is tough. Were there anyone else besides Amber that this was your first time reading it, though? Is this anybody else's first time? Oh, perfect. Lisa's saying this. This was your first read through and you loved it. The homesteading and Brianna and Jamie meeting was amazing. It's your fave so far. Yes, that's right, Lisa. This was your first one. You did the same thing. You were planning to read a core each day, but you ended up reading 3/4 in one day. Yeah, yeah. I think this one also has the best linear story in the latter
Hmm.
half books. Like, even, between like Dragonfly and Amber and Voyager, there's a lot of like stuff going on. So this has been your favorite so far. Wonderful. I love hearing it. Okay, cool. All right. So this time I didn't break it up by parts. I just have the questions all kind of in order. So we'll just go. It's relatively in order, right? I wrote the questions in order, but we're not going to go part by part because some of the parts there isn't even really anything to say because they're like 2 chapters or something. So
Yeah.
that was part of it. But we start off where we're in America, and also don't let me go step by step through this book. I'm not going to do that. We're not going to do that. We'll be here for 3 hours. But we start off with our 2 timelines. I'll just say that. The one timeline, we start, I believe it picks up about like 6 months after Claire's gone when we're in the future timeline. And then with Jamie and Claire, it's been a couple months that they've been in America, and they still don't have a place really where they're going yet. They don't have a place where
Hmm.
they're going. But we start with a hanging, and we have them trying to bury him in a proper place. Um, his reason for getting killed is for stealing what, like, hardly anything at all, and they're
Yeah.
hanging him for it. Oh, just brutal. But we have an intro of a character that we'll learn is a very troublesome man. We meet Stephen Bonnet. Um, Oh man. Yeah, I fucking hate this guy so much.
I know so many of my highlighting was on Stephen Bonnet. Like I was like,
Mhm.
oh, this guy,
Mhm.
he is the worst.
I know. The show made him far too likable. I hate it. Because I
Yeah, I
love
think the
Ed
actor was
Splitters.
very likable. So it was like, and he was kind of like funny at times, and you're like,
I
wait.
know. Hmm. I love Ed Splitters, and I hate that they made Bonnet so likable. But that comes to this. So here's this question: is why do we think that Jamie was so willing to help Stephen Bonnet escape? Like, we know that he's a criminal. They aren't hanging him for no reason. They weren't even hanging Hayes for without a reason.
Yeah.
He was a thief. Like, they didn't just kill him just because. So why do you think that Jamie did that?
I don't know. I don't think Jamie fully saw himself in him, but like saw his circumstances of him maybe going to be, almost put to death multiple times, and I don't know why he let him go because I just wanted him to kill him there. But
Hmm.
Jamie's an honorable guy. I think like that's what's so hard about this is him letting him go is like gonna kill him so bad down the road. But
Hmm.
I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I think you hit it on it. I think he sees some
Mhm.
of himself in it, and Claire kind of calls it out. She's like, Jamie's been a smuggler. Jamie's been that type of thing, and that's what
Yeah.
he thinks. That's the reasons why he thinks Bonnet is there. Although
Yeah.
why he trusts the word of a criminal, I don't know. Because he just,
Mhm.
when he says he's a smuggler and a pirate, Jamie's like, believes him.
Yeah.
I'm like, you
He seems
shouldn't
like
believe
he's
these
like
guys.
all in one, like all these different types of things like you wouldn't expect in like a villain. Like he's
Right.
kind of a jack of all trades and being a villain.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. No, I completely see why I think he sees himself in him enough.
Hmm.
Like, there were times where Jamie got the help of someone and got
Yeah.
away too. And he's willing to be that person. And I think something too that we learn is that there are a lot of times in Jamie's life where when he does a favor for someone, it pays off later in a
Yeah.
good way. There are many times where someone does a thing for him or he's done a thing for someone and it has helped him later. And, he's
Yeah.
very much a pay it forward type of man, and when
Hmm.
he has the opportunity, he wants to help someone. And this is a case of like really showing him what the risk is of helping someone that you have no idea who they are because the payback may not be good. Flying here.
Yeah.
But I know for me, my notes always say like I'm like, kill him right now. Just kill him right now.
Oh,
And
I
when
saw
they're
that
like,
picture on the Discord and
yeah.
I was like, oh, that's so funny.
Hmm. And when they're making jokes with each other, I'm like, stop getting along with him. He's evil. We
Yeah.
hate him so much.
Because he does
So,
come off kind of charming. It's weird. The thing that I liked about this was it showed his like so many different POVs of their interactions with
hmm
Stephen Bonnet, where like they kind of all see a different side to him. Like I don't know,
hmm
I don't know, he's like a chameleon or something and does like crazy stuff.
hmm hmm yeah, he definitely is that character that in the beginning he just feels like he's just barely on the bad side of the law, and it's
Yeah.
only as we go on that he doesn't have a conscience at all. And that's where I
Mm-mm.
say is like Jamie has been an outlaw, Jamie has been a criminal, he has been on the run from the law before, but he knows that he's mostly good. So it's like
Mm-hmm.
he assumes that about him. But
Yeah.
um oh, hi, Becky. Sorry that you're not here with us.
Becky.
We love you. We'll be here for a couple hours, I'm sure. So if you end up being able to, just pop in here. Okay. Karen, this is a good observation. Jamie just watched a friend hang. I'm sure he wanted to give another person a break. Great. Great.
Yeah. Because he's probably
Yes, we
thinking
do
with
have
his friend, it wasn't even that big of a thing that he hanged for. So maybe this guy is not as bad as he thinks.
Lisa said, also Duncan says that they should help him because he was a friend of his. Right, right. I
Mm.
think later on too, though, we find out that like I think maybe he like talked with Hayes.
Yeah.
I think he plays up the fact that they're friends when I think they were just held captive together. That's kind of what
Yeah.
happened. But Jamie is a person that he'll take you at your word the first time. Like a good thing. Like he'll
Hmm.
take you at your word for the first time. But all right, moving along. Can't take too long. All right, getting into some difficult stuff right away. So Claire tells Jamie what will happen with the Native Americans. He's not as sympathetic towards them, though their story mirrors that of the Highlanders. Should he have been more understanding? And also, these are some questions I've gotten off of Reddit groups too. So I would word it maybe of like, why do you think he's not as sympathetic
Yeah.
when they're a lot like him? It's very interesting to
I don't
see
know.
him
I
have
found
that
that
opinion.
so strange because you'd think he would have more empathy with everything he has gone through and, where the clans aren't even around anymore. And I mean, and with everything that happens with the Native Americans, it's just such a tragic, story. And she's trying to relay that to him. And he's just like, I don't know, like maybe he just couldn't connect with it. I didn't understand why he had more empathy because that's something, I mean, maybe it's his generation, his time, the way he was raised is different too, I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. This is very interesting to me because I didn't read it quite that way.
Mhm.
Um, that him being unsympathetic, but maybe I'm also peppering in my future thoughts of what
Yeah.
Jamie is with them. But if I had to like pick a thing, I think maybe he's the type of person of like he's had to change to adapt
Mhm.
to whatever the government threw at him.
Yeah.
And I think part of him might be like, well, if they're gonna survive, they'll have to do that too. Just on a
Mhm.
without the knowledge of foreknowledge that Claire has, right?
Yeah.
Because of course, we also have the empathy of like, well, what's going to happen to them is awful.
Mm-hmm.
But for those of you who haven't read, Jamie is definitely not as hard ass as maybe this
No.
situation would make us think, because there's many more future situations where he'll prove it. So I don't know if it's part of his thing of too of like, we don't know what the future will be completely, or
Yeah.
but that's what I would hazard a guess, is he's like, I've had to adapt and change whatever was coming at me,
Mm-hmm.
so they'll have to do that too. I
Like
don't
he
know.
just had to do whatever he had to do to survive and evolve with circumstances. So like I didn't fully think he was totally being like cruel
Right,
or not understanding. I just think he kind of questioned it and like kind of made her go further into it, because he's like, I don't get it. Like,
right.
so he kind of pushed her on it.
This is good. I think Jamie has heard a
Oh
lot of
yeah.
things about the Native Americans that was blown out of proportion, and realized later how similar they are to the Highlanders. That's true.
Mm-hmm.
Jamie only knows what he's read about Native Americans. He talks about this. This is correct.
Yeah.
That's correct. That's kind of the first that he's hearing about it, is Claire saying.
Yeah.
And also we know at this point too that just because Claire knows something of history, it doesn't mean you know the details of how it goes
Yeah.
down. And history is written by people later on too. So
Mm-hmm.
who knows what the nitty gritties are? It usually falls more in between, as
Yeah.
always. All right. We'll be switching, of course, between the Brianna and Roger stuff and Claire and Jamie, just like the book does. So next one here. Do you empathize with Brianna's reasoning for not wanting to fall for Roger?
I kind of understood it. She frustrates me a lot sometimes, but I still loved her character in the book. But I kind of understood it with everything, watching her mother like settle for like not her real love. Like even though she loved Frank, and so she doesn't want to marry somebody and then have ever find somebody else that's actually, and then the first guy is going to be the one that's the heartbroken, husband or whatever. So I see her like hangups on that, because she watched her mom be in a marriage that wasn't really the love of her life. So I see like certain hangups she has about, not fully going with Roger, and he's like all in pretty fast. I think she's more independent American woman, doesn't want to be like, yeah, let's have sex, not immediately be like, we're married and we're gonna be together kind of thing that Roger
Right,
is.
right, right. Yeah. I appreciate this time I picked up on more details for her than I have before. Um, because her going through this stuff and where she is right now too, like she's still dealing with so much, like she's happy her mom got to go back to her love,
Mm-hmm.
but she also is still grieving that her
Yeah.
childhood isn't everything she thought it was. And I don't know. It's difficult. It's difficult, but I
Yeah.
do think her reasoning is a little bit weird.
Mm.
Um, at the beginning anyway, and we'll see
Yeah.
how I feel by the end of her. And I feel like this part of her, again, I know we're not making comparisons, but this is a lot like amplified in the show of her being to whatever. Like I honestly think
Yeah.
for her, it isn't her saying she wants to go and like date other people first. She's just saying like I want to make sure before I
Yeah.
commit to someone that this is it,
Yeah.
because I don't want to break our hearts later on. And Roger's being like, but if we're sure, like, you don't, what's happened to your mom isn't going to happen to you. And she's like, well, how can
Yeah.
you promise that? Like, she's like, how can you promise that? So, yeah, but their relationship does take a while. Like, that's one of the things you'll see is there's a lot of month
Mm-hmm.
skips. He goes to visit when there's like a moon landing, and she's supposed to come visit him. And like, he is
Yeah.
also a decade older than her. Roger's 10 years older than her. Um, so, he's at a different place in life too.
Yeah. You can tell
So,
he's a lot more mature and has been through something compared to her. She comes off very
yeah.
young.
Mhm.
So
Mhm. Yeah. Oh my goodness. Here we go. Here we go. Yeah, she saw not so good a marriage and would rather be single than make a mistake. Well, fair enough. I empathize with her and with Roger. I see both sides. Yes. I get it, but I still want to shake the snot. Oh, Brianna does not frustrate me. Sorry, do not see this on the show. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff the show misses. That's why, like, we won't really be talking about the show comparison much, Lisa or Susan, just so you know. This is for the book club part because the show Roger and Bree, I could have a whole another analysis for because I do not love what my sweet baby Roger looks like on there because I love Roger to death. Like, seriously, I love him.
Yeah, I don't think it was the best casting. I just don't.
See, I don't have a problem with the casting. I love it because he sings and he can do those things.
Yeah.
It's the way they make him act. Because in the now you started me, Amber. In the most recent seasons, he is Roger to me. It's they don't let him act that in the beginning, and that's why he seems more like in the later seasons when they're being like they've stayed more true to the show. He's literally perfect for me. He's perfect, but their beginnings with each other, I don't like. But anyway, they do that to a lot of people. All right. So, what do you think of Jocasta and River Run? Do you think it's a sanctuary or a lead weight for Jamie and Claire? What do we think of River Run?
I don't know. That's kind of tough because I do think it was great for them to be able to have family there and him be able to see her. But also, he doesn't want to take on that responsibility of her land. He wants to go find his own place, his own home with his own people, you know, and he is a natural leader. He's so good at everything he does. He's natural. People want to follow him and listen to him. And he's, you know, been through a lot in his life. But I think he wants him and Claire to start their journey, not being like stuck, you know, running River Run, basically.
Yeah. They did do my bae dirty. They sure did do him dirty. Oh, thanks, Susan. We're glad you're here for sure. Yeah, I think River Run is fascinating, and I will say that generally nothing great ever happens at River Run throughout the whole series. Like I love Jocasta in some aspects. I love that she reminds him of his mother, and I love that you know she does provide some security and connections for him. You know, it is through being there that he's able to hear about the land and is able to get it, but I don't know. Jocasta brings us a lot of trouble throughout the series. I will say that.
She seems pretty like she tries to come off like she's doing the right, like it for him, but kind of manipulative when she had those people come and like, you know, was like putting him on the spot. And I love that Jamie doesn't pull any punches on that either. Like he doesn't let her get away with it. So, but I was like, oh, I didn't really fully see that side at first, you know. So when I'm reading the book, I was like, oh, she's pretty underhanded. Like she's gonna be manipulative to try to get what she wants.
It's funny because she reminds me a lot of the fox, but a little less violent than him. But she's definitely like, there's a reason this tough old bird is still standing after what she's made it through, and it's because even without her sight, she's able to do a lot. And I do think it's very interesting. We won't spend too much time on the River Run stuff in this book because later books will have a lot more to say, but it is a really tricky place. It isn't a place they want. There's too much responsibility and too much unpleasant things that they'd have to play along with.
Yeah, where like Claire doesn't want anything to do with like slaves, and so he knows that too, where he was like, I couldn't make you have to deal with that, and if we were here, you wouldn't be able to stop it, like because so
you can't let people go. You can't let people go. It's against the law. So yeah, it's just not something you want to deal with. So we meet John Quincy Myers, though. I absolutely adore him. That is a character, again, that's a character on the show. I love him so much. I thought he was cast so well. I love that character. And his whole like hernia surgery they have on the table is great.
Yeah.
But anyway, so we see Ian really starting to kind of strike out on his own with this book, even before the big thing we'll get to. So Ian chooses to go with John Quincy to meet different groups of Native Americans. He's going to go with on like a trading thing. And do you think that Jamie would have been able to stop him from going if he had tried, or is Ian an adult who would be able to decide what he wants? And should he have, you know?
Yeah, I think like Ian is so mature for his age and pretty mature, but also adventurous. And he's he has that Frasier like bullheadedness, and he wants to strike out and do these adventures. I don't think Jamie would have really been able to stop him, or maybe he wouldn't have, because, you know, he's been a lot more trusting in Ian, I felt, in this book, to kind of explore and do things on his own. But I just love Ian. Like, I love how adventurous he is, and, you know, how he goes to all these different Native American villages. I thought it was pretty amazing that you would have like, it's pretty brave to be able to do that.
Yeah, yeah. And it's really good that he does. I mean, it's really good that he does do that, because we're going to need that later on. But I think he'd have done it. Yeah, me too. Me too.
Yeah.
I think he's ready to, you know, to be responsible for himself, because Jamie, I mean, we saw what Jamie had to go through to be responsible for him previously, so it's kind of like this is where he's meant to be. And I totally forgot to mention it, but we bring on Rolo, one of our most important animal companions ever in this one. I love him so much. Yeah. Kids had to mature at a much younger age. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, we don't touch on it too much in this one, but I mean, he also was like assaulted and put through so much, and held, you know, he was held captive and all these things. So like, there's a lot.
Yeah, when he talked about that briefly, it was just so uncomfortable, like hearing the things that Gillis Duncan, it was just like, so it's like he's been through a lot already, where he was taken and was with her and assaulted and all these things already at a young age. So
yeah. I love Ian, and I enjoy seeing his fascination with the Native American population. Jamie can't stop Ian any more than he can stop Marcelly from marrying Fergus. Yeah, this is actually something I mentioned in one of the questions. So doing a little research on this, Diana Gabaldon tells everyone she actually forgot about Marcelly when she started writing this book. So you'll notice that Fergus is with them in the beginning and Marcelly is not. And it was written in that Marcelly had to stay to have the baby or whatever. But then
that confused me for a second, because I was like, where is she? Like,
well, it's like, because Diana made a mistake. She made a mistake with writing it. That is part of the thing of she writes non-linearly. So that is something that happens from time to time. So she was like, she had to stay there to have the baby. But Fergus came without her and then is gone back with her. So it didn't really didn't really make any sense, because he didn't get like shipwrecked. So anyway, we ignore that, but just know that Fergus and Marcelly show up later on anyway, but they were supposed to be there and she forgot about them. So then she just had them be gone. And I'm like, hey, you know, it happens. Ian seems to fill the natural role. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely he does. All right. Okay. So back to this one. And this is one of my favorite controversial scenes, actually. I love this scene. So how did you feel about Roger's proposal to Brianna and his refusal to only sleep with her? Do you see his perspective and do you see hers? And yeah, this is one of my favorite scenes, and also one of the ones that the show messed up the most, because this is the scene that makes him look like an asshole. And in the book, I love it so much because I understand her perspective of her being like, you know, it's what we said before, where she's like, I don't know what's going to happen and I don't want to lose someone. And he's like, you're not making any sense. Like, what are you saying? You're saying you're already planning to like leave me or like whatever. And she's like, no, my mom didn't plan. And then it happened. And he's like, you don't make any sense. And she's like, but we can just be together. She's like, I want to be with you. Just why do we have to get married? And he's like, you obviously don't understand me at all. And even though he uses, like, he breaks into all these crude words that I know people get mad, he's like, I could have been fucking you if I wanted to. I didn't, because I want to marry you. And yes, that's very old fashioned of him. We get it. But he says it. He's like, I didn't care about those other girls. I didn't care what happened. And I mean, yeah, that feels very like misogynistic, but it's also just true even today. Like, when you care about someone and you care about fostering the relationship, you don't just want to hit it and quit it. And so when he says to her, he's like, I want all of you or I want nothing. I don't want this halfway in, halfway out. And she does respect that, even though, you know, it's a difficult place to start. I totally see his perspective. I think he gets a little too heated about it in that, but we see his temper too. I wrote down in my notes for this, I was like, remember, he's a Mackenzie too. And like, he feels a bit like used too. He's like, so you just want to sleep me but you don't want to make, like he's feeling that too. And I don't
Yeah.
know. I love him. And he like gives her the bracelet where he's like, I love you a little. I love you a lot. I'll have all of you or none. And I'm like, I
Yeah.
respect it. I love it. So.
Yeah, I thought
But,
it was funny. Like he comes at it pretty like heated. He does get pretty feisty about it. And she's coming from, I see both sides. Like she's coming from like, hey, like I still want to be with you. Like, can't we at least, have a physical relationship too? And we're still together. And he's being much more old fashioned about it and wanting them to be together and more intimate when they have sex. So I totally got both sides.
yeah, me too. Me too. Completely agree. I love to see it. And this is the beginning of like, there's so much because she like slaps him, I think, in that scene too when he says it. Like, oh, people in this they're so physical, and I know it makes some people uncomfortable, but they're just Scottish people. Okay, I'm just saying, it's not spousal abuse. She slaps him. He's like, "Stop it! You're being a bitch." Like they say stuff to each other. Like Jamie calls Claire a bitch plenty of times, and we still love her.
Yeah.
Which you do that with people you love. It's not always a sign that you need to break up the marriage when it happens, but yeah,
Well, I
I
think it's
completely
so much
agree.
clearer in this book how much of a daughter of Jamie. She's like Jamie's daughter. Like her,
Yeah,
feistiness, stubborn temper,
yeah,
like it's definitely there.
yeah, for sure, for sure. They've known each other, and they have too. That's the thing I was tracking. Like they've known each other for like 3.5 years, I think, by that point, I believe,
Yeah.
because at one point it says it's been 2 years that Claire went back, and that's starting in like 70, and then it's like another
Mm-hmm.
year and a half before she goes back. So they have known each other a long time and they're living in different places. So for him, he sees it, he's like, I'm proposing, I want to, he wants them to live together and be together and be
Yeah.
married and not have to keep doing the long distance thing. And I think that is fair of him to want. He wants to be with
Mm-hmm.
her all the time. So anyway, she's still struggling with that stuff. So anyway, everybody agrees. I love that. I love those two. All right, here we go. LJG brings William to see Jamie on the ridge. What do you think of his reasoning that he wanted to see if he could still feel? Do you think this was right that he did it?
This is
Oh
kind of
man.
murky because I could understand Claire's irritation in this. Like, I loved her
Hmm.
perspective of like, oh, so you just wanted to see him, one more time. And she has a major jealousy over him, which I think is hilarious.
Oh
But
yeah.
I just love Lord John Grey. And so, like, I think like him feeling kind of guilty over his wife dying and like not feeling anything and not caring, like but he did care about her and love her in his way,
Mhm.
made him feel so guilty. And he kind of wanted to make sure, like, also, like, does he still feel the same way at those intense feelings with Jamie, and just make sure he's, did feel that,
Right.
I just feel so bad for him because,
I know.
this unrequited love of Jamie. But, I mean,
Yeah.
she was like, this is so much bullshit. Like, you just wanted to see Jamie. You're not here because, you happen to, be doing this in town or
Yeah.
whatever. And make this
Just admit
trip.
it. Just admit
Like,
it.
but I do
Yeah.
love it. Like when, like, they have like when he's sick and everything, and she's stuck taking care of him. I thought it was really great because they're finally able to like get to know each other. And,
Yeah.
she can see what a good guy he is, even though she's irritated by his love for Jamie a lot of the time. So
Yeah.
I really loved him in this book even more, than I previously did.
Yeah, we'll get the next questions about that part too. I
Okay.
remember just feeling so brokenhearted for him, and
Hmm.
again, this was a scene that the book did or the show did so good. I cried so hard. Like John Barry is just so amazing. Of
Yeah, he's
like
perfect.
Isabel. I know, like Isabel is such a good woman, but she was his best friend. She was
Yeah.
his best friend, and that's just so hard to he never gets to be with who he really wants, even if it wasn't
Hmm.
Jamie. Like he never gets to truly be with who he would want because it's dangerous and illegal and all those things.
Yeah.
But he is such a good man at heart. Like he's one of my favorite people. He's so precious. I love him.
Hmm.
But it was a bit foolish and a bit reckless to do. Um, But I
And also to
understand
bring
why he
him
did
there
it.
too when Jamie had to leave because his son was looking so much like him. It's like, and then you bring him.
Yeah,
It was
yeah,
dangerous.
yeah, yeah. You bring him, and I mean, granted, the only people there are Ian and Jamie, but even
Hmm.
like Ian's figuring it out. Like Ian figures it out when he's
Yeah.
there. He's like, "Oh my god, that you have another kid! Like, what the hell?"
Like how Claire immediately recognized him as like being Jamie's. Like when she
Right,
sees him, she's
right,
like,
right. When she's helping him, she's like, "Oh my god, he can't
this
be."
can't be
You know?
happening.
Yeah. We're gonna get to this, Jen, in just a second. I have that question. LTG felt guilty for sure, and I think a little depressed over the loss of his wife. Yeah, I did also like that Claire got to come pregnant. Yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
so we'll go to this because I know I should have. Where'd it go? Here we go. Because I had this question. What do you think of their back and forth, which we were talking about, and how do you think they are different by the end? Um, I think that is so interesting too, because Lord John Grey is not a petty man, but he does feel very jealous of Claire. And so him trying to be like,
Yeah.
it's the son, like I've taken care of his son, and she's like, we have a daughter, right? We have a child. And like I carried his child. So don't know what you're trying to do. Like, bitch, please, like back it off. But she's
Yeah.
also able to connect with him on the fact of like she knows what it's like to love Jamie,
Hmm.
to love him with your whole heart. And, you know, she can see how tragic it is that there's not even a hope that Jamie can ever love him
Yeah.
back. Not that he would love anyone but Claire, but there's not even a hope because, Jamie's never going to
Hmm.
be with a man ever. So it is very, very hard to see. But yeah, I love it. And I think that
Hmm.
Claire's never fully easy around LJG, but this is the
Yeah.
beginning of like a good friendship that they'll have for a long time. So let
Yeah.
me see.
Because you can definitely see his like feisty, jealous behavior with her too. So they both have that with each other. The only
Mhm.
difference is she gets to be with Jamie. So you can kind of understand his pettiness and how, like, just like depressing that is for him. He's always going to love Jamie and it's never going to be the same on Jamie's side. Like, Jamie respects him and cares about him, but
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and
yeah,
there's
I was
also
really
like the scene, when Claire says of like, I thought he was dead, and I married someone else. I thought he was dead,
good.
and just
Hmm.
how like John's really like, wow, that would be awful to have
Yeah.
been away from him that long. So, and now, and her saying like, and his daughter's never going to see him and stuff. Like, obviously,
Hmm.
he can relate. But anyway, good stuff there. Good stuff there. And then this is the great one. So, what was your favorite part of William and Jamie's interactions?
I'm trying to remember like any specific scene that was like my favorite part, but I just loved like them, like when they were doing the fishing together and just like doing that little like road trip kind of thing together. And it was just sweet to see Jamie be able to have some of like that one-on-one time with his son. And
Mm-hmm.
like it was just very tender moments. And I just love it. It just makes your heart melt for Jamie because, he's not going to have the chance to really raise him, but like he respects what, John has done and everything like that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And he's gonna have it's a tough thing to swallow too, that both of your children were better off with other men their whole lives.
Yeah.
It's that's a tough thing for a man like Jamie, who would have been and is such a good dad, but like he
Hmm.
would have been, and that's tough.
Yeah.
That's tough. But all right. Before I move on to some of the really juicy stuff, I will say that this part of the book, I believe it's part 5 or whatever, where they are building the house and they're like on the homestead, is some of my favorite stuff of Outlander, because it's like a survival book and I love
Yeah.
survival books. And there's the bear attack, and there's him getting lost in the snow and like almost freezing to death, and there's them like building up. He starts the whiskey
Yeah.
still, which will be going for a long time. So that's some of my favorite stuff in Outlander, is when we're doing the farming, like boring stuff, which I know a lot of people are, it's boring. And I was like, I love
I
the day in
liked
the
it.
life stuff so much. I love it so much. So
That's what I was more enjoying about this book was like it was a lot of the
mhm.
day in the life of Jamie and Claire and finding this new land, finding this new home, and like their
Mhm.
new place. And I totally forgot about like I'm like I don't even know if they showed that in the show, but like the bear attack and everything. I
Yeah.
was like, oh my
Mhm.
god! I was like, it was so good, and I loved when he like had his back out and he's just like in the snow
I
freezing, and
know.
she's like, how am I gonna carry him? Like I loved it.
Mhm.
Like, so it was good to see like them where they're not in so much mortal danger all the time and they're
Yes.
like able to just be together and build a life together.
Mhm.
So I really loved seeing that instead of it always being like some issue.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, I love it because part of what I put in my notes is that, sorry, I love when we get to see them just like be a couple. You know, in all of the other books, I mean, there are moments of it, of course, but we never get to see them like just being together and realize how good of a pair they actually are. Like they're
Mhm.
funny and they like joke in dangerous
Yeah.
moments and they, you know, like Jamie coming into bed, he going outside naked to fix something and then crawling into bed and making her like warm him up and him like there's just so many and they're so like horny for each other too. I just love it. This is like
Yeah.
it's so great, like just all the time. Just all the time. I just love them. So that's stuff I just love getting to see. Oh, the snake in the outhouse. Yeah, it's so gross.
Oh my God, that was so
So gross.
funny.
I know. And when poor William falls in, like,
Well, then when they were like,
so gross.
Ian, get in there, like Ian's like
Hmm.
laughing, and he's like, get in, you
Go
gotta
get
get
his
in there.
gun. Yeah, go get his gun. Ugh, la la la. Yeah.
Gross.
All right. Now we'll get into some juicy stuff here. So Roger discovers the death notice of the Frasers. Do you think he was right to keep it a secret? And were his fears warranted?
I get why he got kept it a secret, because he was trying to protect her. And like, what can you do? Like, we saw, like, because his thing too was like, we saw Claire went back in time and she wasn't able to stop anything or change anything. How do you know going back you're gonna be able to change anything? And he knows Brianna is like so dealing like with the loss of her mother and will be destroyed by that. But also, he kept it from her. And so you're keeping such an important thing about her mother and father from her is going to be blow up in your face. And so,
Yeah.
you kind of get both sides of it, but it's never
Hmm.
good to hide something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, my feel of it is like I absolutely understand 100%.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing I look at is I'm like two things. Number one, Roger, her father was a historian and she was going to school for a history degree. She knows how to do her own fucking research. So if he
You're not
thought
the only
he could,
reason
the
she found
only one,
out.
right? I was like, do you think she can't find it herself, sir? Do you think she wasn't going to look for her parents? Like that was his first,
Yeah.
like, you idiot. Like I was like, you dummy. And number two, if he'd been the one who told her, he could have been not in control of her, but he could have been in control of how he shared it, and he could have
Yeah.
been a part of her plans. Because for him thinking that by not telling her he was circumventing it all and he was just going to carry the guilt forever, I was like, you are being a wishful thinker, my boy. You are a
Yeah.
wishful thinker. So I don't like blame him,
Yeah.
but I'm also like, dude, that was not the way to do it, man, because you
And her
just made it
whole
worse.
journey could have been so much different if you were with her. And so
I
that's when
know.
you're like, don't keep
Yeah.
anything from the little woman, freaking out. No.
Yeah, I should have told everybody that from myself. Yeah,
Yeah.
Karen. Yeah, and I don't know. This like makes so many people mad at different times, but I'm like, I totally understand it. It's
Yeah.
just I don't know why he thought the place that he found it was not the only place it could be found. Is the thing
Yeah.
like it
Well,
was?
and then
Yeah,
he could have talked out his concerns with her about going in the past and they could have had a conversation and worked through it together. And then maybe she would have like woken up and been like, okay, this is
yeah.
unrealistic for me to go back and time and change everything. Like,
Mhm.
you know,
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, for sure. Said in Discord as romance readers know that keeping secrets always backfires. Yes, yes, and usually
yeah.
leads to further breakup.
Third act.
I mean, just in fiction in general. I mean, it's the Chekhov gun theory. You
Mhm.
don't introduce a conflict if you're not going to deal with it. Like we knew
Yeah.
that was going to happen. So, Okay, but then we continue along with this. So he very quickly finds out that, oh, well, it's too late, buddy. She's already gone. And now you have no idea where she's at. So his first attempt to go through the stones, which I'm skipping ahead a little bit, you guys, because we're already an hour in. And I mean, we're doing
Yeah.
pretty good. We're about halfway through with stuff. But I love Fiona, by the way. Let's give a shout out to Fiona. I'm skipping over her stuff, but Fiona is the MVP, okay?
Yeah.
Getting over her ring and also like believing all this and being someone for him to bounce the ideas off of. They go through the grimoire together and everything.
I
I
liked
think
how
that's
she like
great.
was scared of Gillis, Duncan. Like she like was like scared of her, knew that this lady was fucking crazy.
That is an intuition for sure. Crazy
Yeah.
bitch, man. Crazy bitch. Hold on. Roger believes history can't be changed. This is true.
Yeah.
This is true. But yeah, so this is part of the thing too. I could have put up a lot of questions about the mechanics of it, but honestly, the mechanics of the time travel are so confusing to me. But I'll briefly go over like part of the reason Brianna says later that she didn't tell him is that she does plan to come back to the future, and she believes that she needs Roger to be there so she can think of him to be able to come home. And when Roger tries to go through, he thinks it's because he was thinking of his father and he brought himself back to a time where he existed and you can't exist at the same time and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
So throw him out. That's what he thinks anyway. And so he gets thrown back. And so what did he have on him? Did he have gold on him the first time or silver? He had something on him when he gets thrown back.
Yeah.
But then Fiona gives him her ring and he tries again. And this time he thinks of the right time and he goes. Hold on, I think he gets pushed back. Yes, that's what I was saying. Yeah, because he was thinking of the time with his father, which, we'll definitely come back around to this stuff later. That's why I'm not getting too into it now. But it's really where we start. There's only so much you can do about it. There's only so much research you can do with this when we're not actually doing research. Like it's a trial and error. But
Yeah.
it is the first time we see someone not be able to do it. So that is our first clue of like, because when Claire went through the very first time, I always say this when I read it, she didn't have anyone she was thinking of. To me, I believe it's because she was pulled to her soulmate. That's what I
Yeah.
believe is what happened. That she didn't even know to think of him. She didn't even know to think of him, but she was drawn to him. But there are later on where people are able to pick the time they go to by thinking of it and by thinking of people. But for me, the one I always stick by is the way that Claire first went. This is the magic of it to me. Is she was pulled to the time of her soulmate when she was supposed to, and I believe that.
Yeah.
But that's not proven in it at all. When later on, when they do try to dissect it, they are able to like steer, is what they'll call it, steer by like thinking of a specific time. So yeah. Let's see. I love that Fiona becomes the caller. I know. I love Fiona. I love her. Her and her man are always there for us through the years as we need them to be. They're like, we can't time travel with you, but we're vicariously here to support and take care of your homes. Take care of your homes while you're gone in the past at different times. For sure. Okay. Then, what do you think of Brianna's reception at Lallybroch, and do you think the Murrays believed her story?
I love seeing Jenny again, and it was just, I love how they immediately recognized her. You this tall, beautiful redhead woman coming, and it's like completely Jamie's daughter.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think, but I freaking hate that bitch who like totally comes after her. Like you're coming after his daughter for like, I just hate her. I hate her. But I loved seeing her and like Jenny get to see her and like just her conversations. And like, it was just great. And, you could even see Jenny feeling guilty for how she had kind of pushed Jamie into marrying that bee. And so because at first I got mad at her in like the last book when she was doing that, but I just love Jenny.
Yeah. Well, I love Jenny too. She's amazing. I said this, I'm actually very glad the show is finally recasting like Jenny. I wish we'd done it earlier and not tried to hold that. Like,
Mhm.
I love the actress who plays her. I absolutely do.
Yeah.
But Jenny is so important to other parts of the story. I was like, we just need to recast her. We're not getting that lady back. She's wonderful. We're not getting her back, but we have to have a Jenny.
Mhm.
So, like,
Yeah.
there's only so much Ian can replace. There's only so much
Yeah.
Ian can do the job of. But I do love him. I love him so much. But
Oh
yeah,
yeah, I did love that moment where he took her to like Jamie's like little secret hideaway kind of thing. I thought that was really cool too. Like,
Mm-hmm,
and her just seeing like where her father came from. Like,
mm-hmm,
I just
mm-hmm,
love it.
mm-hmm. I'll remind everyone again, I always will, that Brianna is 6 foot tall.
Yeah.
And so she definitely stands out. I love how it's commented on in the book that she's always been kind of ashamed of her height or like tried to, which a lot
Yeah.
of us tall girls do. And the fact that she's like, being tall and strong in this time is actually good. Like, it's
Yeah.
definitely keeps some people from messing with me. And I
Yeah,
love
but
that
she
about
definitely
her.
stands out among all those other like women there, you know. She's like this tall city.
Yeah, love the family's happiness. I know, I know. And but back to
Mhm.
kind of my question too of like, do they believe it? I think that, we talked about this before of like what they get told about where Claire was, right?
Yeah.
And there was more to the question that I shared. Like, this was one of the questions I got from the Reddit group or whatever, is that like there's a lot of different stories the Murrays have been told at this point. They heard that she was in America. They say she came through France. They've heard, she was thought he was dead this time, but then made it back.
Yeah.
Like, there's just so many different things they've heard. I think they're just willing to go along with it at this point. And
Yeah.
also the fact that it's very clear that she's Jamie's daughter. Um, and she also has
Yeah.
the pearls, which is beautiful. And
Yeah, I loved when
yeah,
she pulled those out, and I loved her getting feisty with her, you know.
yeah, yeah.
So it's like, I really like that was such a sweet moment for me, like just to see
Hmm.
her back in time during her dad's time. Like just her
Hmm.
being like this whole journey to Jamie is just, so
Yeah,
huge. And so
yeah.
I don't know, it's just moving.
I know. When she reads his like letters and stuff and is seeing
Yeah.
how he writes about her mom and just knowing like, wow,
Mhm.
she's actually with him and like he's so, you know, she just feels that it's all been right, the decision
Yeah.
that she made. And, her having to be an orphan and being alone,
Mhm.
her mom is having happy, so she's like, it was worth it.
Yeah.
Like, just reading that letter and being like, it was worth it that,
Yeah.
that I sent her back because, so I love that. Love it so much. All right, here we go. Now we got a lot of back and forth. So, okay. So Roger's relief at finding Bree quickly turns into frustration, right? They're real feisty. How do you feel about the way that, I want to say the way they treated each other? Again, this is a question I grabbed from somewhere else. I want to talk about the way they treat each other during the reunion. And what do you think about their hand fasting, marriage, and then like she makes him leave right after?
It's just they are like
It's
such a
so
mess
volatile.
sometimes. Like they're like a mess.
Hmm.
Like they go through such a gambit of emotions for this reunion. I mean, the way he like manhandles her out of the place where
Yeah,
like her poor little, servant or not servant, but
yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
She's like thinking the wrong thing. It leads to all these
Hmm.
wrong conclusions
Yeah,
down the line. But it's like he's so pissed, she's so pissed and they just kind of go
yeah,
at it, but then they like are in love and want to be together. So I thought the hand fasting was like really cute. And then them finally,
yeah,
being together, but then the blow up
yeah,
afterwards, it's like,
yeah. The thing that always bugs me, and I want to read you this every time, is when he mentions that he knew. Why doesn't he just say, I wanted to tell you in person. I just found
yeah,
out I wanted to tell you in person. Because seriously, like, he doesn't want to tell her that over the phone. He'd be like, you were supposed to
yeah,
come visit me for Christmas. I was going to tell you. Because she immediately jumps to, you're keeping it from me, which again, he did. He did. We know he
yeah,
did. But for him, why can't he just be like, I wanted to tell you in person? I figured it wasn't a rush
yeah,
since it says it's not till 1776. And you were supposed to come visit me for break. And I was going to tell you. Like, I know we can't undo everything. But I'm like, he immediately was just like, well, you shouldn't have done it anyway. And I'm like, Roger, If you
Yeah,
could
they
have
were
just
they were
phrased it
combative. They weren't
differently.
having like a good conversation like they were originally. They were good at
I
communicating. And
know.
then that just like it spiraled out of control. It was like you guys should have just both admitted your issues and worked it out
I
and not
know.
lost your mind with their, it kind of they remind me a little bit of Claire and Jamie, where like Claire will like run off and
Hmm.
and Jamie will call her a bitch and they'll get all like hit each other and crazy. So I'm like, they do kind of have that
Yeah.
passionate
I mean,
relationship too.
she was gonna leave him when she found out about Leary. Like she went all the way
Yeah.
to the Stones pretty much. So it's not that I have a problem with
Yeah.
that fight. And the thing I wrote in my notes about this is I was like, he left to let them cool off. And then she runs away before they can talk the next day. Like if she had
Yeah.
just, went to bed and waited to talk to him the next day, all of this what comes next doesn't happen. Like
Yeah.
she fights and she runs. Like she fought and she was
Hmm.
pissed at him and she ran. Like, he didn't leave to leave her. He went to give her
Yeah.
time to cool off. Like I hate when people say like he abandoned her. And later on when Jamie will be like, you left her, and it's like, you walked away too. So you don't
Yeah.
say more than you did. Like you already said more than you should have. It's
Yeah.
like give her time, and then she left too soon. Like she didn't give him a chance.
Hmm.
She runs out of there. So I don't blame her for what happens to her at all. Not at
No.
all. But I'm also like, girl, you've already ran from him once. Like he's not going to stop you from getting to your parents now. Like you're here.
Yeah.
You'll go to get, like, why did you have to run away in the night and not like talk to him? Like anyway, the
Hmm.
hot-blooded, the Fraser blood man, the Fraser
Yeah.
blood gets in the way a lot of times. Sometimes fear is the underlying emotion of anger. He was afraid for yes, yes, yes. She was afraid that he would try to stop
Yeah.
her from going. Absolutely, Karen. Right on. I mean, fear turns to anger so quickly. Absolutely.
Hmm.
So anyway, this is another scene of like a lot of people say like she's being childish or someone's mad at him. Like they're both being childish. They
Yeah.
both made, but now they've hand fast and the first thing she does is run away. And I'm like, well, of course later on your dad's gonna wonder if you guys were really that serious because you didn't even try to
Yeah.
talk the next day. You like ran right away. But okay, hold on, man. Roger is yelling outside her window saying he'll be back after she gets to. Yeah, yeah. I know. Roger is just wild, man. He's a bit emotional. But then no, I wanted to mention these because I feel like dreams play a huge part in the communication between like Bree and Jamie without them ever knowing each other. So this part is like she tells him of a dream she had where her mom was in danger and called for help. And she says that Jamie heard her doing that, and it was like, do you think that was the time that her mom was in Jamaica being worried about her? And I absolutely do, in my
Yeah.
opinion, believe that. That's what he
Yeah,
did.
completely. Because I remember that whole
Yeah.
scene where that woman, was speaking to her, as like Bree or whatever. And it was like,
Hmm.
wait, what the heck? And so when this happened, you're like, oh, I think that's
Yep.
definitely real then.
Well, and earlier in the book, Jamie dreams of her and is able to describe her birthmark and that he like
Yeah.
kissed her on the back of the neck or something. Um, and so Jamie will always have a feel of his children. I'll say that. Like
Yeah.
he won't know. Like it's not like he has enough information to do something, but he'll get this sense of them that he can't have known from other people telling him. And
Mm-hmm.
to me, that was one of the ones where he's able to describe that to Claire, and she's like, "I never told you about that." And he's like, "Yeah,
Yeah.
she's okay," like he knows that. And where she had the dream that it wasn't just her seeing the notice, she also had that feeling of like she was like they were in danger, and like I just wanted to
Mm-hmm.
see them. So, um, yes, the parallel with Jamaica is right. Mm-hmm. Totally has to do with Margaret Chandler. Yes, absolutely. That's what I feel like too. I think it was spot on right there. But also when he like dreams of her. I love that too. Okay, here we go. What was your favorite part of Jamie and Brianna meeting each other?
This like alone like made this a 5-star for me was
I
Jamie
know.
being able to see his daughter, hold her, talk to her. Like, I was like, okay, this is everything. It was just so emotional to think of like everything Jamie was going through, and like the fact that he never thought he would be able to see his own daughter. Like, he never thought
Mm-hmm.
he would just have to hear stories or dream of her, like you're talking about, and to like
Mm-hmm.
actually see her. And like, I don't know, it was just so beautiful, like where they come together and she like tells him who she is, and it's just obvious who she is from the get-go. But I just
Yeah.
loved it. It was like that made this book for me, is just all the
Mm-hmm.
Jamie and Brianna moments.
Yeah. Yeah. There's some of my favorite things in the whole series are Jamie and Brianna moments.
Mm-hmm.
There's more even in this book, which we'll get to, but I love that scene where as soon as she says, "My name is Brianna," he's like, "Oh my God, no, it's not." And even when he
Yeah.
says, "You're huge," and he's like,
Yeah.
"No, I've only seen you as a child. Like, I've only seen you as a child, and you're a grown woman. Like, look at you."
Yeah.
It's so special, and especially in a time where like you don't have pictures. Like if Claire hadn't have had
Mm-hmm.
pictures, you never could have seen what she looked like. You
Yeah.
know, we never would have known. Um, and it's just so special, and
Yeah.
then she doesn't know what to call him, and he's like, "You can call me Da." It's just easy, and like it's just so amazing. It's just one of like
It's so
Diana
great.
writes those moments so well. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's so good, guys. It's just the best.
Yeah.
Some of my favorite scenes. But of course, we don't get to have it be happy for too long. So um, we then have um, her finding out she's pregnant, and we learn that it might not be Roger's because there was only a 2-day difference between them consummating their hand fasting and her being raped by Bonnet. But in here it says Brianna tells Claire she's pregnant, and they discuss her returning right away since they know you can travel when you're pregnant. But Bree says without Roger there, she wouldn't have anyone to help her get there, right? So this is where I brought up, like, do we think the Stones work that way? And I guess I jumped ahead when I told this earlier. Like, I think it has something to do with it.
Yeah.
I personally think it doesn't have to be the person. I think you just have to think of where you're like going to very clearly when you go through.
Yeah, I don't think it has to
In
be
my
the
opinion.
person, because I
Yeah.
don't know. I didn't really think that, but I think Bree, is like really focused on that and completely believes that. But I'm like, I don't know if I believe, like, the whole stones thing was getting confusing to me in my head. I'm like, what type of stones they were getting? What stone means what? I was like, what does
Yeah.
this mean? But I
Yeah.
don't think she needs to have Roger there for her to go back to that time. I think the stones, she could have been able to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's more of, and I agree with, like, why she can't leave him. Like, he's there
Hmm.
because of her, not like
Yeah.
because it's her fault, but like he's only there for her,
Yeah.
and she can't leave him. Especially, she feels so guilty how they parted. Because again, they parted in anger, and she didn't wait to talk to him. And now she's just like, well, I can't like leave him again, like I need to
Yeah.
find him. And I mean, she even says to her parents, she's like, he should behind me, even though she stormed up, she's like, he's coming. The whole time she's
Yeah.
like, he's gonna be coming after me. He wouldn't leave me. So it's like she knows that he loves her, obviously,
Hmm.
just because they had this fight and she was so angry. I also think, and this is like me talking, I also think after her being raped so much by Bonnet, she is like, I mean, he's right in a way. She's like, this was so
Yeah.
dangerous and so reckless of me. Um,
Yeah, when
and
you think
again, of
about
course,
her
it's not her
traveling with
fault,
just that
but
little girl, like
right?
like that is when they were like, Ian was trying to get her to be like have a man, like a big person with her, and she picked her, and it's like that's so dangerous. And that's why you understand why Roger freaks out, because it's like we've
Hmm.
seen what it's like in these times. Let's be realistic. And so, and I
Yeah.
think now it's like she feels guilty about her actions and like how she didn't really think
Hmm.
things through. And,
Yeah.
she wants to stay there for Roger. And it's like, obviously now she's cooled down with everything that happened
Yeah.
to her, you know? So,
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, and I mean, it's the no-win situation for it, but you know, I think her being big and strong and an independent woman is to kind of not her detriment, but to her like miscalculations. That's how I
Yeah.
would say it. Is, this goes into, and we'll get into the scene in just a second with Jamie, but like it's not the same. And also people aren't all guided by the same principles. Your Roger isn't just being misogynistic, he's trying to protect you. Like he's a
Yeah.
very forward thinking, loving man. Like he's not he's
Mm-hmm.
not saying that to be like manipulative. He's like, this is
Yeah.
dangerous. Like, this is dangerous. Like, a cut is dangerous, let alone you like trying to get there by yourself. Hold on, let's see what she said. I don't think they need someone on the other side. I don't see Frank as the person Claire wanted to be with when she
Oh,
returned.
yeah.
Fair enough. Yep. Yep. I think it's all theory at this point. I don't think they know exactly how it works or if there's one way. Yes. Yep. I think Brianna doesn't want to accept leaving Jamie so soon. Claire doesn't want to lose her either. I think Brianna really doesn't want to go back without Roger being with her. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely. It's so hard. It's so sad to see. But let me skip to I'm going to skip to this one before going back to some of those other ones. So, this is the scene I'm talking about too, where like Jamie physically grabs and restrains Brianna in an effort to show how it could have gone for her with Bonnet if she had tried to fight him. What do you think of his way of teaching her a lesson? I love this scene so much.
It
It's
was pretty
hard.
brutal, like tough, but
Mm-hmm.
it worked and it really affected her. And she like woke up with the way she was handling it or thinking, and having any
Mm-hmm.
like sense of blaming herself for not fighting back or, those kind of thoughts. And so, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, Jamie was pretty rough with it, but like it was like it worked. Like he got through to
Yeah.
her and I didn't find that
Yeah.
upsetting or anything.
No. It's again one of my favorite scenes. This scene has made me cry many a times through
Mm-hmm.
my life of reading it, where he's like, "You're big and strong, but I could do anything to you. What are
Yeah.
you gonna do? I can pin you down. I could hurt you. I could force you to do something.
Mm-hmm.
And like, what could you have done? And it takes her being like, I only would have gotten hurt more if I
Yeah.
hadn't, you know. And it's like, yeah, that's absolutely true. Um, and again, that is one of the things of like the characterization of the show of having Sophie be she's small, which is okay. A lot of
Mm-hmm.
actresses are small. You're not going to have Brienne of Tarth in here, but like she is a
Yeah.
big woman who can do a lot. And so she sometimes overestimates what she can do,
Mm-hmm.
And in this case, like she thought she was enough to protect her and Lizzie. And like sometimes there's still some really uncomfortable things. And then you know, him saying that to her leads to a discussion that I also think is very hard, but very good, where she brings up Blackjack Randall to Jamie and is like, you submitted to him, didn't you? Like, mom told me, of course,
Yeah.
didn't know I'd be meeting you. So I'm sorry that was her like betraying that, but didn't think we'd ever see you again. But like, is that what you did? And he's like, I mean, it was. I did it for your mother. I wasn't submitting
Yeah.
for myself to survive. I was doing it for her. And we'll get into, sorry, let me see what some people said to what I said before I jump onto that one. But let me do this. I love that scene with Jamie and Bree. I believe it's the only way she would have truly understood it wasn't her fault. Yes, I love it. I love how he also says she's still strong, even though she wasn't physically strong. In the situation about Jenny cooking after their mom died, yes, women have to be strong in all different ways. I think Jamie did the right thing. She would never have forgiven herself without being shown. She's also stubborn like her mom, and I love when she said, "Why didn't you just tell me?" Right? Wasn't Claire in an earlier book pretty tough with Jamie to help him deal with it? Yeah, girl, absolutely, Ruth. As a
Oh yeah,
survivor,
I
I love
remember
this
that.
thing. Self-blame and the voices in your head can be overwhelming. Absolutely. That's
Mm-hmm.
just, there's not just one type of survivor or one type of victim. Like the fact that you were able to become a survivor of the situation is what the win is. That's
Mm-hmm.
what the win is that you're able to do that. So this leads to Jamie reflecting on his own assault at the hands of Blackjack Randall. And Jamie summons the memories and he finally forgives Randall. Why do you think he's able to do that now? And should he have even tried to bring all that up again?
I don't know how he could forgive him.
Yeah. So I love this scene actually. Whenever he will remember Blackjack, I actually really love. I know I shouldn't, but my thoughts of it is in that moment of him remembering, he thinks of the fact that if he hadn't submitted to that, he wouldn't have any of what he has right now. You know, like when he's
Yeah.
remembering Blackjack Randall, he's looking at his daughter and his wife and this country they're in now. And if he hadn't have submitted to that and gone through what he did, they don't have any of what they have.
Yeah.
And so I think that helps him, you know, not of course thank Blackjack Randall for getting there, but as like he's a part of your story. And also, how many people already has he been able to use his experience to be compassionate towards? And I mean, I said this when it happened. I'll keep bringing it. I said it when we did our Outlander book club. I said that is a pivotal moment in his life, and he's going to use it for the next 30 years to help
Yeah.
other people through things because of what he did with Brianna, right? Where he pins her down and is like, you couldn't have done anything. And also, like, look at me. I couldn't do anything. I
Yeah.
had to submit. Like, I'm even bigger than you and stronger than you. And that it was the power imbalance. That's what did it. It didn't have to do with BJR being able to tie him up and hammer his hand. It was because the power
Yeah.
imbalance did it. And it's very powerful all through the years when they'll bring up the ghost of BJR. And I mean, it's one of those things of like he forgives him for himself because just as he doesn't want Brianna to blame himself,
Yeah.
you know, and we'll see that later on. Like Brianna will take that lesson that he gave her and she will use it in this book. Even she will use it. So
Yeah.
love this. Forgiveness is a process, not one time. Correct. Love that, Karen. Very true. So yeah. Okay. Now let me see here. All right. When confronted by Jamie, all right, now we're getting into some very uncomfortable moments here. Roger declares he has come to claim his wife. Was that the right way to start out? What else did Roger do that harmed his defense? Oh, Roger, baby. Said
He came in
all
a
the
little
wrong
hot
things.
with Jamie.
He did. He did. I don't know if he thought that, like, being as He-Man as he could with Jamie Fraser would, like, work or, like, what? So painful to watch him say and to say, you know. But again, in his defense, he doesn't know what has happened or what
Yeah.
he has said, you know, doesn't know that she's been raped, you know, doesn't know who he's looking for. And Roger, unfortunately, has changed his fucking name, has changed his name
Yes.
to go by his like old name. And that doesn't help out because now he's Roger McKenzie instead of Roger Wakefield. So yeah, that does not help him out.
Yeah.
I don't know what he could have done different because I mean because of what Lizzie said. That's why he's screwed from the beginning.
Yeah.
He's screwed from the beginning because Lizzie saw him as being the villain. You know, Brianna didn't tell Lizzie that she was being raped by Bonnet on that boat because she didn't want her, you know, she was sick, she couldn't have helped. She didn't want her to feel that guilt. So the only sexual experience that she like witnessed the aftermath of was her losing her virginity and coming home with, you know, some blood there. So I personally don't think there was anything he could have done. I mean, yes, he heard it even worse by, you know, whatever, but Jamie just sees him as delusional. He doesn't want to lose his daughter anyway. So he isn't being, you know, if he had said his name was Roger Wakefield, I feel like that's all he could have done to help him in his defense, is if he had said Wakefield instead of McKenzie. So to answer that question is that's the only thing I think he could have done. I think Jamie would have still been distrustful based on him saying, I took her maidenhead, I'm her husband. She never told her dad that she got handfast with him. So he just looks like a delusional rapist. That's what he thinks this guy is. And he thinks that he can claim her because he's taken her maidenhead. And Jamie's like, that's not happening around here. So because Bree didn't tell the whole truth and Lizzie misconstrued something, and then Roger doesn't say his name, like there was no way that was going to go good by him running into him first. Like if he had run into Bree first, we could have been saved. But there was nothing that he could have
It was
done
a
in
big
my opinion.
mistaken identity type of thing. And Jamie was being, he finally has his daughter. He feels so protective over her. And I think like anything he was going to do, Jamie was going to be coming
Yeah.
after him, like on that.
Well, he also only recently found out she was raped, but
Yeah.
doesn't know who did it. And this will lead to, I didn't end up did I put this question in here? Let me see. Because there is also, let me see, did I put it in here? I don't think I did.
Where like Claire decided they didn't tell him the whole truth
Right.
about Stephen Bonnet because he
There
let
you go.
Bonnet go. And it's like, if she would have just told him the truth,
There you go. Yeah.
like
there's a question about that, but I don't think that I added it in. So that's why I was like, that was the other piece. So it's like 5 different people not telling the whole truth. And really, Lizzie's the one everybody blames, and she's the most innocent in it all because she literally saw her come home limping with blood in her pants. So like, she's literally the most innocent, and I feel like Lizzie always gets such a bad rap for this when it's literally kind of everyone else's mistakes, and all she does is be like try to protect her. So yeah, poor Roger, man. I mean, we're just happy he didn't kill him. That's it. That's the only thing, man.
Like when you see like Jamie fighting or like on like Roger, you're like, what's Roger gonna do? Yeah. And I know he does try to, come off pretty macho, and so you're thinking, but you're not like the same macho level as Jamie Fraser.
Right. Because
You're gonna get hurt.
Big too. Yeah, like Roger, I believe in the books is like only an inch shorter than him too. Like he's big.
Yeah.
He's got Scottish blood too. But I mean, Jamie, he's a raging bull when he's upset. And there was Ian. He's got like he had no hope. Poor Roger.
Yeah, him and Ian teaming up on this was just like, I love Ian when he finds out later too. He's like, oh my God, I'm so sorry.
My poor baby. Oh, my pour baby.
They had a really rough start to meeting Roger here.
I know. Jamie refused to allow BJR to take anything else. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. BJR has done enough. Holding on to your anger only hurts you. That's right. And when he admits to, he's like, because she asks if revenge helped. And he's like, I don't know that I'm the one who killed him. When I woke up and he was dead there, I mean, he was just trying to survive himself. So, he's like, I don't know that it will help you. And that was good advice. That's a good father's advice for sure. All right. Claire tells Jamie that she tried to make Frank leave her when she arrived back in 1948, but he wouldn't. He stayed, loved, and raised Brianna with her. Does that change your opinion of Frank at all? Before we get to the final part, before you knew the final part of what he does. I have always said that. I feel like we've already said it through this book thing. Like we already felt this way about Frank. Like we do feel that his love of Brianna is his saving grace, if he has any at all. He looked at this child who is the spitting image now. We know the spitting image of Jamie, and he loved her anyway, and he loved her well. Okay. Yeah. He used no manipulation in his love of her. In fact, as we've gotten tiny peeks at, we haven't even seen all this yet. Like Brianna knows how to shoot perfectly, old-time guns. Yeah. Her father taught her how to shoot guns from the time period that her dad is, because he was like, just in case. Like, he did some good stuff. Okay, he did some good stuff. I say all this in goodness now because I have plenty of shit to say about him later. But there are things he did where, whether he did it like with the intent or not, he prepared her for, some things in the past that she's good at. Like she's a better shot than, with old time rifles. Like who learns how to shoot an old time rifle now? Like, you don't. So yeah, I don't like what he did with Claire, but I understood for the time period why, Claire might have said she would share Bree with him, but if they had gotten divorced, how long would that have been for? Yeah. How much access to Bree would he have really had? So yeah, it doesn't change my opinion because I already thought this. So that's my answer.
Yeah, I kind of already thought it from like the previous book, of him. Basically, he raised her as his own. He loved her, and it was like kind of his way of being able to have a child, And so I think, I think we all have mixed feelings about Frank, but on that, I know he was like a good dad, and he was very, he taught her so much, and really loved her unconditionally. So that side of him, okay.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's pertinent information of her to share with Jamie and stuff that he puts back on Roger later on, where he's like, "Will you love her? Like, will you love this child like yours? Because if you can't, then you should
Yeah.
go." And honestly, that's him repeating back what Claire said of Frank. You know, so he's really kind of holding Roger up to like, "Can you be Frank?" You know, that should be kind of that's kind of what he's saying. He's like, "Can you love her?" And even more so, though, to not have what happened to Claire happen to Bree. Like, if you will love her and keep her, you won't just love the child, because it might be easy to love a child. You know, they're fresh and new, but like, you can make that child like you, not like the supposed other father. But will you love her for her, right?
Yeah.
And we'll see the same with Brianna, where she's like, you can't just stay because you think, you know, there's a 50-50 chance the kid is yours, so you have to stay for me. We'll get to his stuff. I'm jumping ahead, but like, that is what she says to him too. And why he takes his time. Like, people give him crap for taking. I was like, no, he takes his time to decide that he really can do all of those things. And I think that was good. And maybe if Frank had taken some time to think if he could, then we would be different places. So. All right. We already did those. Okay. So the big understanding comes to a head when it's realized that they beat and sold Roger to the Iroquois. Was Brianna justified in her anger towards Jamie and Ian? Were they justified in what they were trying to do? Oh, she goes a little bit overboard. This is
where I think people would like turn on Bree, you know, for the way she goes after Jamie here. And it was like, how is Jamie supposed to know? Like, and that the whole picture wasn't given to him. And he acted pretty ruthlessly. And
it's because,
Ian
honestly, no, but it's because like he calls her a slut. He says, "I wouldn't have thought this of my daughter, that you would sleep with someone and then cry rape," because he doesn't know there's two people. And her, even once he knows the truth, or he's like, "Oh my God, I did not have all the information." Because also he's been threatened with someone crying rape on him before. So he's like, you know, she threatened to do that to him. You know, what's her face? The Geneva case. So he's like, I did not think I would have a daughter who would do this. So Claire sees this like blowing up, or she's like, oh God, I have to stop it. I have to stop what they're saying things I didn't say. So I understand her being like, my father would have never said that to me. And I'm like, yeah, but Jamie didn't have all the information. This is the same problem of you blowing up that led to you leaving Roger and us being in this fight.
You're definitely seeing the same temperament in the same fight of them being stubborn and just like going after it, like with each other. They're very similar. And so like Claire's and it just sees both those personalities going at it.
Yeah. I mean, and of course, and as soon as the information gets put down on the table, he's like, it was Bonnet. And now just to add 1,000 more levels of guilt and grief onto Jamie, that will lead him to be like, okay, I'm gonna go get him, or I'm not coming back. And you know, again, Bree being too stubborn to accept an apology before he leaves, where he might die, is again, this is where I think some nasty Bree feels might come up. It might come up. But I will play up the fact that she is pregnant in a foreign place. She's just found out that the love of her life is sold to Native Americans, who are known to be very torturous and bad from what they've heard, which he is sold to them under the pretense that he hurt a woman too. So they will be harsher to him than other people. So it's a lot of feels, you know, a pregnant hormonal woman. And then to find out that your new dad, who you're already like missing your daddy, like she's missing her daddy. She's missing her daddy. And to have this big Scottish brute say these horrible things to her, even though he immediately regrets them. Like, it's a lot. Okay. Like, we see Jamie's ugly side for sure in this of like, he doesn't,
and different generation too, different time of like the way they view things, you know. And so it's like, obviously he's going to come at things a lot differently than Frank would have come at them like in his time. But we don't like her like bringing up her other dad.
I know, that's the, you know, like we always have a one type of weapon to use. And
Yeah.
but it is very important because Claire gives that ring to Jamie, and we'll see it later. But
Mhm.
she gives the ring over to him, and it's like, you idiot, you jumped to conclusions. Like, it was Bonnet, and now Claire's guilty of like trying to protect him too. You know, everything
Yeah.
happens from people trying to protect each other. Jamie didn't tell about the person he'd run into because they're trying to protect her. Claire
Mhm.
doesn't say who really raped her because he's trying to protect her. You know, like, oh well, Bonnet, he'll want to kill Bonnet. Damn right, he wants to kill Bonnet.
Yeah,
We
let's
all should
let
want to
him.
kill Bonnet. We're gonna let him rape other people and stuff too. Like, God, you know. So what if they want to go kill him? We should let's go. Let's go do it right now.
We hate this guy.
Anywho, moving along here. So, um, we'll touch on this a bit here. What do you think of the evidence that there have been other travelers trying to change the past? So when Jamie and Claire go to get Roger back, they run into the story of what's his face? Um, I don't remember his name. Blackfoot. What is he going by?
I don't remember.
I'm gonna write it down, but he really wanted the Indians to make war and to be fighting back and scalping people. Like, he
Yeah,
was
the
leading them on these
skull that
war
she
raids.
had or whatever. Like,
Hmm.
um, yeah, I thought that that was really interesting. That whole like sequence of her finding that too, and almost like that
Yeah,
dream like
skip some of
thing.
that. Yeah,
But yeah, I thought that was really interesting and kind
Otter.
of like, oh yeah,
Thank you, Karen.
and
Yep.
like to think about, you know, how if you came from the future and everything that happened to Native Americans, you want to go back in time and save these people and tell them like you need to be fighting back or doing something. And they are
Yeah.
like, no, that's not like they're not listening to him. It's not their way. And he's probably losing his mind over the frustration of having them try to make a
Yeah.
change. But like he knows everything that is going to happen to his
Yep.
people and they aren't going to do what he's saying. So it's like, you know, you could just see that
Yep.
frustration and how sad that would be, but he's probably a little kind of crazy about it too with the way he went about
Yeah.
things.
Yeah. This is also the like second case of seeing people turn on the person, right? Because like, I mean,
Yeah.
Galis survived the first attempt, but she was being
Mhm.
guilty burned as a witch for
Yeah.
things that she done, and then we see someone who like he was turned on by them where they're like cast him out. Um,
Mhm.
so there definitely is, you know, and it's not the last person that we'll run into either.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. Ooh, Lisa, you totally pointed out good things. Frank from earlier books would have totally called Brianna the same things. He was planning to take her to England to get her away from sex, drugs, and blacks. Oh, yeah, that's
Yeah,
true.
that was
That's
not a
true.
good scene. That was,
Yeah. She'd never had a big fight with her dad yet because he
yeah.
spoiled her. They hadn't, you know, that's fair. Like,
Yeah, it's like she didn't even know that. It was like her fight, like Claire's fight with him. So it's like, you know, to
yeah.
Bree, he's still like the perfect dad that did everything for
Yeah.
her.
Claire really let him keep that. You know, it's only through the stuff that she starts to see um, more of what Frank was. But I think you're right, Lisa. I don't think that, you know, I don't think if she'd been raped that he could say the things. But I think if she came home pregnant with someone's baby, he would have also been like, you need to get married. I mean, it was still the 60s. Like,
Yeah.
so anyway, Jamie and Roger meet each other again. How do you think Roger's perspective of James Fraser has changed since meeting him in person?
I think it's a tough first introduction. I think things are going to be kind of chilly between him and Jamie for a while after everything that he
Yep.
has to go through. You know, it's like, how do you
Mhm.
get over that? It's like getting your ass handed to you by, you know, Jamie. It's like, so
Mhm.
you can kind of see how that would be kind of tough for them to build like a good relationship from the get go. Like he's going to have a lot of negative feelings about Jamie.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's that thing of like, don't meet your heroes. Like,
Yeah.
Roger had a before that attack and like everything, like he had a lot of hero worship built up for James Fraser,
Hmm.
like knowing all he did for Claire and what he tried to do for, you know, Scotland and the Rising and just
Yeah.
all the things that he did. And then to be like, oh well, when this is the father of the woman I love and what's going on, right? And
Mm-hmm.
again, he thinks that, he thought Brianna betrayed him until he tells her, like, Bree sent me. Because when he sees Jamie Fraser, he's like, oh, Bree didn't mean this to happen. He immediately knows she wouldn't have sent her dad to me if she
Yeah.
meant this to happen, right? And so he immediately is like forgiving Bree for if he, like, he's immediately like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, she didn't betray me, she didn't leave me here. Um, but yeah, I think it's good because it does set them back. But I also think that, I don't know. I think that Roger and Jamie, it kept them from ever being on like tiptoes around each other, which could have
Yeah.
been it if he had showed up as being the one who, he learns that he had handfassed her. He wanted her to be his wife, and like he's like, "You left
Mm-hmm.
me." He's like, "I would." She told me to leave. Was I supposed to force myself on her? And then she was gone. Like, and I think Jamie also has a better idea of what his daughter's like now too. Like he knows she's
Yeah.
not perfect either. So yeah, I feel bad for Roger. Like, poor dude, man. He's such a
Yeah.
good man, and he just ends up in this like crazy situation. So. All right, we have a loss here, kind of here. We have Ian decides to stay, and in order to secure the release of Roger, he makes a trade. What was behind this decision? Do you think it was guilt, love, or duty, or all of it together?
I think it could be all of them because I think he felt really guilty for his hand and like what happened to Roger. But, and he loves Jamie and wants to get Roger back to his family, now that he has Bree back and everything. But I also think Ian is very fascinated and interested by the Native Americans. So, he's willing to do this. He's such a selfless guy that he's willing to take this on in order for
Hmm.
Roger, since he made the error and made the call that sold Roger to these people, so I don't know, that's my take.
Yeah. Yeah, me too. I think for Ian, it isn't as big of a sacrifice, him not having,
Hmm.
a partner yet or having any of that. And he's
Yeah.
already been spending a lot of time with the Native Americans over the past couple years. So he
Hmm.
understands their ways. He already speaks it fluently. He speaks some of the
Yeah.
languages fluently. So I think it's a sacrifice he's willing to make because they can't lose Jamie. He's like, I mean,
Yeah.
even Jamie's like, I'll make the trade. It's like, no way. Like, no way.
Yeah.
And Jamie would also never like assimilate. Like he would always be wanting to leave and get back to them. Whereas Ian's willing to be like, this will be my new family. Like it'll be great.
Yeah.
This is another scene that I love in the show. I love when you see the difference of Roger running the gauntlet to Ian running the gauntlet. I love that scene so much. It's so good. Um, really powerful stuff. Let's see here. Ian also has a girlfriend there. Yes, yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
I know. Well, it's a beautiful scene because he's like, this is gonna be like my moment of worth. Like this is what I'm gonna do. Let's
Hmm.
see, I think that yeah, I don't know where I put it now. But it's a really powerful thing. And I mean it is like hard because for their parents it's gonna feel practically like um he's dead because he is supposed to like die to who he was. But
Yeah.
it was good stuff, though. It's good. Real proud of him. Bum, bum, bum. Okay, so now we're on our way back here. So, when asked whether or not he could be with Brianna despite the fact that her child might not be his, Roger says he doesn't know. So, Jamie sends him away, calling him a coward. Was that fair of Jamie? I don't think it was. And I'll
No.
tell you why, but I don't think it was. Because I kind of touched on this. I'm like, Roger knows the choice that it is, and he wants to make sure that he can do it. If he's
Hmm.
gonna leave, he should leave now. He should go now. And so he has to search. Like he searches in himself. And again, it's that difference of like, is he gonna be like Frank or is he gonna be, you know, himself? Where it's like, no, I'm gonna love Bree 100%. And
Yeah.
so when he comes, I think that I have that. Okay, I have a question about when he shows up later, but I think that it was smart of him to do, where he's like, I need to really think about not only what I'm giving up in the future, he's not necessarily a man made for the frontier. Okay, himself, he's a bookish man. And,
Yeah.
will I be okay if the child isn't mine? Like, will I be okay with it? And it just takes him a little bit to decide. Like, it's all right. It's all right.
Well, I think it's so much more responsible and taking it seriously, and especially with like Bree's issues in the beginning where she didn't want the same situation that her parents had. So he's thinking that through of like, I'm not going to be just married, like there for the kid, but maybe not for the wife. I need to be in for the whole situation, be there for both of them, all in. And so I think it's good that he takes the time to actually consider that so that he doesn't make things worse where they're stuck in this horrible situation for years.
Yep. This is great. Jamie can be impulsive, but Roger is a thinker. He needs to take time. Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Love that. Yeah, Jamie makes a decision and he'll stick by it forever, instantly, but some people need to think it through. And I like this. I think Jamie's anger is fear that Bree won't forgive him if Roger doesn't come back. That's a good observation. I think so too. I didn't end up putting a question here for this one, but just real quick, touch on the whole like Bree and Lord John Grey section. We'll just touch that quick. I didn't put a question in because I already had like 30 questions, so I skipped that one. But we should mention Bree meets LJG. She tries to blackmail him into marrying him.
Yeah.
We find out that Stephen Bonnet is being held captive. She goes to see him and tell him about it, and he ends up getting away. And he also gives her a gemstone for what might be his child. But now we have Stephen Bonnet out there in the world thinking that the child is his because she doesn't tell him anything
like,
else.
why did you have to go tell him you were pregnant? Like, why?
I know. I get why she wanted the forgiveness part, again, because we talked about like that, but like she didn't have to show that she was pregnant. Yeah, she was like 8 months pregnant, but she could have hid it. So yeah, he's just such a confusing.
She was so like creepy in that scene too, with just like the way he talked to her and like blasé about everything that he did. Like,
I know.
He's a very different, like, kind of nuanced villain than like what we have with Blackjack Randall, where he's like very in your face. Like this guy's, I mean, I also liked Roger when he first was like on the ship traveling with him on the way there. Was like, I loved all his like immediate feelings on him. Was like, this guy's like psychopath, with the way he looked and talked, and he just could tell immediately this guy, is there something wrong with him?
Yeah. No, he's that like feral type of, he'll be smiling while the world burns. He's almost kind of Joker like. And even while he's doing evil, he's like smiling for it. It's very All right, so we're able to make it back here. So Brianna insists that Jamie stay with her while she gives birth. Jamie obliges, which was unusual for the time. What does this say about their relationship?
I loved this. This is another reason it was like a 5-star, because it's like he got to be there for her giving birth. He gets to like witness the birth of his grandchild, like stuff that he was never going to get to do. And I just love that she was so like, that shows her trust and that she's really opening up to Jamie and wanting him there. It was just so beautiful. Like, I just love all these little moments between them where, they do come back together and have forgiveness from like their blowout. And I just loved it so much, just seeing Jamie get to be there for that.
Well, she calls him daddy for the first time.
Yeah.
And we know like that's her term of endearment for Frank. And the fact that she calls him daddy, it slays me like every time. And he's like getting to do that and just like, saying all the right things and holding her hand. Like, it's so good. He wasn't there for either of the births of his children either. And so to get to be there for little Jem, it's quite beautiful. I love it. Let's see what everybody's saying. Got to go back a little bit. LJG does everything for Bree, the fake engagement, all the friends trying to help her figure out a plan, helping her. I know LJG is like her like fairy godmother for this part of like
Yeah, or like
literally, I
Jocasta's
guess.
like trying to pressure her into like men and stuff. I'm like, there's another more of those
I
manipulative
know.
like Jocasta
I
things.
know. Well, and
So
one of my favorite scenes and why I like the book is I love when she's like trying to intimidate him because he's only
yeah.
5'4", it's like 6 foot, and she's trying to like intimidate him into blackmailing him into that. It's just so funny.
I always
And him
forget
being
he's
like,
5'4" because I think of the
I
actor.
know, I know. I said it in my group. I was like, I, I understand why they didn't pick
Yeah.
someone that for the show, but it also bugs me that Brie isn't 6 foot, like I said, because I'm like,
Yeah.
I love that she's bigger than a lot of the men of the time, and I love that she is so much because I'm tall too, and yeah, he's just this like you know he's this dainty
He's
man.
the little guy.
And but yeah, he's a tough too. And but him being like, I should marry you just to teach you a lesson, because she's like, oh, you sleep with women too? And he's like, I was married for 20 years. If I slept with a woman. She's like, oh well, then I don't want to
Oh,
marry.
whoops.
I love that scene so much because he's like, yeah, I was with a woman, I can do that. Because I'm like, oh my god. But anyway, one of your favorite scenes. Yes, yeah, she calls him daddy. I wonder if she was thinking of Frank. I think so too. I personally feel like Frank was like there with her for that
Yeah.
because there's some stuff after where, Jamie's thinking of Frank and everything, and I feel like that just made us all like
Yeah.
feel lots of things. I will say one of the things I was surprised of. I will say I thought it was strange that Jemmy doesn't have one of Frank's names. I always have wondered, like, she
Yeah.
loves her dad. She has no reason not to. We put one of, they put one of Roger's names and they put one of Jamie's names. I was like, why didn't you put one of Frank's names in? I don't know. I kind of wanted Jemmy to be like everybody in one,
Yeah.
but whatever. They got enough names. People got enough names in this
It'd be too
series.
long for me.
But yeah, it's a good scene. All right, so then we have, do you think Roger claiming the baby as blood of his blood was the first thing he should have done? Yes, I do. I do. Because it answers all the questions everyone has for him right away. Like, they're all going to be like, are you here for the baby? Are you going to accept it? And he just walks in and he's like, prick my finger. He's mine. And then you can ask questions,
Yeah.
right? Like, he's like, let me prove it. This is the decision I've made. And I do. I think it was the right thing to do because honestly, that's what like Jamie understands. He understands what's
Hmm.
happening when that happens. And I mean, you know, because once he's decided that, like, we can prove everything else. So
Yeah.
I like it. Okay. What was it that finally brought Bree and Roger back together again?
I'm trying to remember that scene because I know he was like wanting to talk to her and was like kind of watching her in her like place. And so he was like waiting to like get the courage to come talk to her about everything. But I wasn't sure if it was like something that happened before that brought him to do that. I read this. I'm like,
Well, I believe it was like Jemmy woke up in the night and he finally
because I
turned
know she
into
went
it.
outside in the middle of the night. And so, because he was like, well, I can't wake her. I can't wake her. So then he was just sitting out there kind of hovering around.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's beautiful. Jem does bring them together. It's really beautiful. I love
Yeah.
it. All right. Here we go. Now one of the most interesting reveals in the whole thing. So there was a letter that Roger came across while he was going through his father's things, and it's a letter that Frank sent to the Reverend. And within this letter, Frank he reveals a lot of stuff that he knew. And so we really start to put together the puzzle of what Frank knew. How much research did he do? What did he really discover about the life that Frank would leave? And if he had an idea if Claire would go back again, like, we really see a lot. So my feel about it is like it pisses me off a lot, but I also like understand because he doesn't quite believe it. Like, he is a man of science, but he keeps finding all this proof. And so he does these little things that's just in case. As I said, like teaching Bree certain things, putting, a stone in the one place where he hopes she'll look it up. Like, and that is what happened, So he's like, I'm not willing to just hand him over to her, because he is bitter. He's bitter that this man like stole something from him. He's petty and bitter about that. But he also does leave clues if she decided to hunt. Because if she decides to hunt, she'll find this thing and she'll find this. And then there's a chance she'll figure it out. But I don't want her to do it when I'm still here because I don't want to have to lose her. So I don't know. I remember when I first found it out, though, I was pissed. Like, I'll say, like, when I first read this book and read that letter, I'm so pissed at him. Because he didn't leave it in a letter to her. Like, if he'd kept it a secret the whole time he was alive, but in, like, his will, he'd left a key to this letter, I would really forgive him for it. Because, again, I understand if while he was alive, he didn't want her to be able to go back. Like, I know that, like, I understand why he wouldn't want that to happen or whatever. But the fact that, like, it takes 2 years and it isn't until she goes to Scotland she's able to do it, like, he could have left it somewhere for her to find on purpose, but he didn't. So, still,
I had to go back because I was, like, reading it and then, like, listening to it, and I'm like, wait. No. And, like, I went back, like, to read it again because I was pretty pissed. And I was like, maybe I read that wrong. So I was pissed. I mean, I get it. I get Frank's reasons, but it's like, I completely agree with you. If he left it in his will, like he didn't want it while he was alive or whatever, if he left it in his will, then she would have found out immediately and not had to go through all of this, searching. And she was putting that off too, because, had to deal with Bree learning the truth and all that kind of stuff. But I don't know. It was crazy. I wasn't really expecting that. And I was pissed that he hid that from her, but because who knows, he might not have, if he didn't get that accident, he could have lived a long time and she would have like never known that Jamie had survived and everything.
Yep. Yeah. Well, and he was planning to take her and move to England. Like, he was going to move back in the vicinity and, like, he's such an asshole. Like, I don't know. I go through it, but I think it's a huge clue about Frank's motivations, the little things he admits. Earlier in the book, Bree tells Jamie how Frank said that Claire might leave someday. Yeah. Well, and that's why I said the letter is very eye-opening because it's almost like he's at war at himself at the point that he writes that letter, because he doesn't believe it. He's like, I thought this was rubbish, but then I looked into it, and there's a James Fraser from this place, and he existed, and that, like, it's real, like, so he's so torn about it, and then he also doesn't want it to be real because it's easier to hate her if she made it all up. It's easier to hold on to that bitterness if she played him for a fool, when really it was fate that led to this. It's nobody's fault that she went back and fell in love with someone else. Like, it's nobody's fault, It's not his fault either until he takes the stuff on. So, yeah, the first time I read it, I really, really hated him. But again, you'll see there's so many things he did to prepare at the same time. So I'm like, I'll always be conflicted about Frank. I always will be, because when we really look at it, it is him that makes it, like, that starts the hunt later on. Like, the things that he did. And all these things he sent the Reverend for them to find. So I don't know. But one thing I really love. Oh, wait. Okay. 2 things left. Just one question left and then one of my own. So how might Claire react when she hears that Frank knew Jamie was alive? Oh, yeah, this question. She doesn't know that yet. He doesn't.
Well, and doesn't he say, too, they're like, are you going to tell Claire? He's like, yes. Like, he's not going to keep that from her.
No, he's going to tell Bree.
Tell Bree. Okay.
He said, I won't keep it from her. Yeah, I won't. She's my wife now. I won't keep it from her.
Yeah. Because it's like, I just can't imagine how Claire would feel, like, so betrayed and, like, that she had to suffer for so long in this marriage that she was just completely unhappy with while he's, like, having affairs and he, like, kept this from her. It's going to be, like, but then maybe she'll feel conflicted like we all feel conflicted about him preparing Bree and leaving the clues for her, you know?
It's just another example of how human Frank was. He's insecure, but he loves Bree and Claire and doesn't want to lose them, at least while he's alive. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's also unbelievable to begin with. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So it's, for me, I think she'll be very angry. And I think that Jamie's more forgiving than she is, because there are times when, when we look back to Dragonfly and Amber, when Jamie's looking at needing to send her back, he's like, I fucking hate Frank Randall, but I'm also will thank him until my dying day. Like,
Yeah.
I'm so happy he'll take care of you, So there's always that, double feeling for Frank and Jamie of like
Yeah.
war on different side of time, and I
Mhm.
can't remember if he even says, he's like, if I meet him in the afterlife, I think we could
Yeah.
get along then, kind of thing,
Yeah.
One of my favorite things, and this one I don't even have, I think Claire will be conflicted and not really surprised. Yeah.
Yeah.
When we get to the very final part, one of my favorite things is when he gives her the ring back and he said, do you want to wear it? And she's like, you're giving back. And he's like, I'm a selfish man and I would keep you from him, but I won't keep him from you. And to me, that is the single biggest difference of
Yeah.
because of Jamie and Frank, because Frank wouldn't let her speak of Jamie.
Mm.
And throughout the years too, like Jamie is okay hearing about Frank because he
Yeah.
is thankful to Frank. He's thankful to him. So, and he knows that he won in a way. Like Jamie has her now, and he has his daughter
Yeah.
now, and he's dead. Um, so yeah, I think for me that is in the end like why Jamie is the better man is
Yeah.
that he won't make Claire choose. You know, he won't make her choose. He lets her have,
Yeah, he
but because
never
also he's
has,
like,
Like he
yeah,
never has.
yeah, he never has, and the fact too that he's like he's not like as threatened by it because he knows that she's his, and like for
Yeah.
whatever time that he has her, he's like, why would I keep you from your memories? Why I don't
Mhm.
want them to be bad memories. Like, I don't know. So Jamie's a better man. We
Yeah.
know it. He's better. For
He's the
sure.
best, man.
Yeah. Claire has to contrast what Jamie did when he found out about Frank. Yeah. Yeah. What did Jamie do? Immediately took her to the stones and was like, you better go home to him. Oh, Jamie's always the better man than us. We know.
Yeah.
We know. So, wow, we didn't do too bad. Right at 2 hours this time. This is my final one here. So I know, obviously, I really cut us down this time, even though again it still is 2 hours. I cut out a lot. So, is there any like parts that anyone really wanted to touch on? We can do that now for a couple minutes here. Is there anything, Amber, that you wanted to mention?
My main things were what just made me fall for this one so much more was just honestly what I've said is Jamie being with Bree and their interactions and like just him having that chance to get to know his daughter is just it's the best. So I mean, and I thought even though I hated him, I thought we had a pretty interesting villain in this one, but I loved like all the day of a life kind of things. Like I thought I would not like that I would get bored. I mean, yeah, she does over explain a lot. It's lengthy,
Yeah.
but like as long as you know that's kind of what you're getting, like I was okay with it. And so I just really loved it. I love Jamie. I mean, I think everyone does, except for when I read some Goodreads ones. I'm like, these people like bash on Jamie, and I don't understand how you could bash on Jamie. So
They can't handle a real man, Amber. That's the
yeah,
problem. Like Jamie's a real man with all his flaws and benefits, and people can't
yeah,
handle it. And I'm like,
he's
give it
not
to me. Like,
perfect.
give it to me. Yeah. My thing that I always will tell people, especially as we go into like the behemoths of the series, something
Mm-hmm.
to remember is like you don't have to read every line. You really don't. I know some people will. You won't listen to me. when there's those big descriptions or medical jargon, like that's just not important to the story. So if you're
Yeah.
feeling bogged down, like just skim a little. It's all right. It's all right.
Yeah.
Especially
When
to
she's
get
doing
through
her
some of the big
surgeries, I'm
ones.
like, oh,
Yeah, yeah. Because I still want people to be able to push through. So please don't get bogged
Mhm.
down. Just push through because that's the thing for me. This is the fourth time I'm rereading and I pick up new things. Like one of the
Yeah.
things I wanted to comment on, which I mean, you said you're caught up with the show, Amber, right? You caught up with the show?
Yes, I think I missed like the last episode, didn't record from like the
Okay.
previous season, but
Yeah.
pretty much caught up.
Because something I noticed for the first time this time is that the hunters are mentioned at the dinner at Jocasta. There is a
Mhm.
Quaker called Hunter, and I have never noticed a Quaker hunter so early in the series before.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, I believe that that will be like Rachel and Denny's parents, I think
Mhm.
that will be.
Yeah.
I've never noticed that. I've been reading these for 10 years and I never picked up on it. So it's because there's different parts that I really dive into each time. There's different
Mhm.
things that are more pertinent. And that's okay. Like again, this isn't this is just for us to chat and have fun. So if you end up skimming through chunks of the Fiery Cross, there's a lot of war talk in that one, lots of that. Like it's fine. You can still come because we're not going to go into that. Yeah, skimming is your
To
friend.
me is their
Absolutely.
friend.
Absolutely. So let me think if there's anything I still want to touch on. I think we got to pretty much everything I wanted. Um, yeah, I think those are the, I mean, I did make the questions, so we talked about pretty much everything that I wanted to. But yeah, I love this one so much because of, oh, I remember what I want to ask. Sorry. What was anyone's new favorite character? We met a lot of new people. Any persons besides our main four people, who was someone's new favorite character from all the people we met? Let me ask that question.
Hmm.
I
I'm
love
trying
John
to
Quincy
think.
Myers.
As I was like, maybe him because
Yeah,
he was a character in this.
I love John Quincy Myers. Yes, and I do love Duncan Ennis. He's a very important character too.
Yeah.
I really like him. I don't remember if we see him in the third one or not. Yes,
Oh
Rollo,
yeah.
my
Yes.
baby. Oh, my Rollo.
Well, like
Ah.
I don't know if you've read the Game of Thrones series at all or anything, but like the
The
direwolves
first two
mean so
books.
much to me. Like Ghost is
Hmm.
like so important to me. Like, and they're so much bigger, like in the books too, like where you're
Hmm.
just so
Yeah.
connected. Like I love Drogon
Yep. Yep.
more than any character in that show. I'm like, oh my god.
Same.
So Ghost is like my baby. So I'm like, animals and books, like when they do it like
Same.
that, it's like I loved
Yeah.
him. Rollo was amazing.
I'm pretty sure too. I'm pretty sure the tiny white pig that they get is the white sow too. I'm pretty sure that she is. And I've never picked up on that before either. Later on, like everyone's
Yeah.
afraid of the big sow later on in the series because she's like pretty aggressive or whatever. And I was like, I think that little piglet is the big sow. Like, what's going on? You know? We didn't get our new cat friend yet. Pretty soon we get the cat eventually. I love Adso, I think. We haven't got him yet. He's one of my favorite. Rolo and the cat are my like two favorite animals. We also, because she forgot her, we barely touched on baby Jermaine is born as well. We have Fergus and Marcelly start their
Yeah.
illustrious family. I wish Marcelly was in this one more. I'm sad that Diana forgot about her, I guess, is why she's
Yeah.
not in as much because I love Marcelly and Fergus so much. So
Yeah, I
love
think
them.
they actually do them pretty good in the show where I really liked Marcelly in the
Hmm.
show too.
Yes.
Like, yeah, I think that's like really I think they got cast so well. And I just will
Hmm.
always love Fergus. Like
Hmm.
I love
I
him and Jamie's
adore Marcelly.
relationship.
Yeah, I adore Marcelly in the show. She's a character I'm
Yeah.
glad they gave her more stuff because they do give her some other people's stuff in this one
Hmm.
in the show, and I'm okay with it. I love Lauren Lett. She's fantastic.
Yeah,
Like
she's
nails
great.
it. Um, yeah, it's so good. It's so good. But yeah, well, we're over 2 hours. We'll wrap this one up. I think we did pretty good getting through this one.
Yay!
So if anyone saw, I'll be posting it on Sunday is when I have it scheduled for, but I did put it in the Discord that I did pick the date for the next one. So for the Fiery Cross, we will have book club on September 14th at 5 p.m. as usual. So that's when I put that one for. That gives us almost 2 months for that one. I suggest not waiting too long with that one because it does have, as I said, some big heavy chunks, including my favorite part of that one is the no good, very bad long day, where the entire first like 300 pages take place in one day.
Oh my God.
And the Gathering, yeah, the Gathering is a wild. I'm probably exaggerating the 300 pages, but there's a huge chunk of the book that takes place in one day, and
That's
there's just so much
crazy.
stuff happening. Yeah, it's wild, but that one is fantastic. So yeah, we are tipping into the halfway point. Um, it'll be very clear that this one will take a very long time
Yeah.
to get through us, right? We're over halfway through the year, but it's great. I love this. I love that we're not rushing through it. I wouldn't be able to get through
Yeah.
them all if we did that. But anywho, thank you all so much for joining. Thanks for coming. And yeah, we'll see you next time, everybody.
Bye.